Welcome, folks. This is the Garden of English, and I'm Tim Freitas. I want to take a moment and reflect on being a human with you all. As humans, we not only grow in our stature, but also in our minds. When we first learn new concepts, we typically apply them in a rudimentary form. But as we practice them, we begin to see greater complexity and nuance. Think about the first time that you ever learned to play a sport or an instrument. You started with the basics, but through practice and application, you learned to fluidly blend techniques. What seemed to be so hard became significantly easier over time. And I'm willing to bet that if you look back on the times when you were a beginner, you might even be embarrassed to think of how you were. But I want you to picture today's video like these times in your life, when you learned something new. And I want to talk about some core concepts that you must understand when it comes to discussing rhetoric. But I also want to give you some advice about how to start building your skill set so that by the end of this video, you'll be able to cast off your old rhetorical self and put on the new one. Today, we're going to explore how you can properly conceptualize ethos, pathos, and logos while on your journey to rhetorical enlightenment. Often when rhetoric is introduced, people start with these three terms. I don't really support this position. Here's why. In order to really understand these concepts, it's actually more important to know how to analyze what's called the rhetorical situation first. Without understanding what the rhetorical situation is or what comprises it, it's incredibly hard to analyze the function of the three Greek terms that I've previously mentioned. Now, this video is not about the rhetorical situation. So if you want to gain some introductory experience with what should be the foundation of your rhetorical studies, you'll want to check out my video that does that. And it looks like this. It's also linked in the description right below this video. Of course, as you trek down to the description, you can feel free to hit that like button and the subscribe button and the channel member button and the super thanks button. Clicking any of those while you're venturing to access the description will not only help us as we work to reach our goal of 10 million subscribers.
Are you serious?
But it will also get Garden of English content out to others just like you. By the way, in the description, you'll also find a link to my exam prep guide that will help you earn high marks in your AP English class and a qualifying score on your exam, since it covers all of the content that you need to know for the course, and it includes plenty of multiple choice practice and practice exams and other self-study materials. It even includes content that aligns with AP US History units. Anyway, let's say that you've already taken care of learning about the rhetorical situation and the content that's involved with that.
I know, I got it. I got the concept.
Now it's time to address the major problem with using these three classical Greek terms in your writing when you write a rhetorical analysis. I want you to think about what class you are learning all of these terms in. English class. Here's the issue. Why would you want to use Greek when you can use English?
I don't know.
Or if you're an AP Lang student, do you think it would be best to use Greek on your English test?
Yeah, no.
But I'm not just saying all of this because I'm trying to be discriminatory. I'm actually giving you this advice for two reasons. First, in the AP Lang course and exam description, which is the guide that the College Board provides teachers so they can prepare you for the course and the AP Lang exam, you will never find any of these Greek terms that I've listed. The only allusion to ethos, pathos, and logos you will find shows up in Unit 2 in the essential knowledge portion where the CED recognizes that students need to know that arguments seek to persuade or motivate actions through appeals, the modes of persuasion. Those modes of persuasion are ethos, pathos, and logos. Notice how those words are not used in the actual guiding document for the course. These words purposefully were not included when the curriculum frameworks were being built. This was so that teachers wouldn't harp on such terms in their classrooms and so that students wouldn't feel obligated to write these words when completing a rhetorical analysis essay, especially on their exams. You may be wondering how I would know this information.
I wonder.
I'll tell you. See how my name is in the acknowledgments at the front of the College Board issued course and exam description for this class? I was involved in parts of its development, and I know some of the conversations that happened around not including those Greek terms. Wait, did I just make an appeal to authority that would logically support my claim? So does that mean that I used ethos and logos right there? Well, technically yes, but I'd never ever want to word it like that.
Nope.
Especially in a rhetorical analysis essay, whether it's on exam day or otherwise. So let's figure out what we should do when writing about ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos in English means an appeal to a speaker's character or authority. Our English word ethics shares the same root of the word ethos, and when you consider if a person is ethical, you often make character judgments. Pathos means an appeal to an audience's emotions. Our word pathetic shares the same root as pathos. And if you think of how many times you've ever used the word pathetic, even if you thought you were using it to mean simple or stupid, the event you were considering pathetic was probably highly emotional in nature.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Now, logos means an appeal to logic and the reasonability of a speaker's message. Logic, logos, I think that's reasonable enough.
I agree.
Now, I provided these definitions because inside of them, you'll need to notice that elements of the rhetorical situation are included. Speaker, audience, and message must be intrinsically understood in order to even conceptualize how these terms relate to what you are rhetorically analyzing. Thus, as I've already mentioned, it's important to make sure that you can identify and describe elements of the rhetorical situation before jumping into the Greek. What's also important is that you know that while you experience varied readings, speeches, advertisements, and conversations, and you begin to recognize these concepts in action, these Greek appeals often overlap with one another. So I'm thrilled that you may notice an appeal to character or an appeal to emotions or an appeal to the reasonability of something, but you'll have to expand your mind and realize that these appeals are seldom isolated. English is like nesting dolls, not individualized boxes. What I mean is that something can be an ethical appeal, an emotional appeal, and a logical appeal all at the same time, or they can be entirely separate. I know that this may seem complex, but this is the growing process that I mentioned at the beginning of the video when you learn something new. So let's look at some examples where we can identify some of the appeals, and then let's learn how to more precisely write about them. Even at the AP reading in May and June, after students have taken a full year of AP Lang, I often read sentences like the following in rhetorical analysis essays. Check these out. The author uses pathos to appeal to the audience's emotions. Or, the author uses pathos to pull on the heartstrings of the audience. Unfortunately, although students think they are actually writing something, they're not. What the prior sentences actually say is that the author uses emotions to appeal to the audience's emotions.
Thank you, Captain. Obvious.
Congratulations, you've said nothing. Now, I get it. If you've ever written a sentence like this, I'm thrilled that you may have noticed that the speaker was trying to get the audience to be emotional. But you need to be more precise. Good writing is precision writing. So here's what you're going to want to do in order to make this sentence significantly better. First, you want to ditch the word use because that's a terrible verb for a rhetorical choice. You can also find out more about rhetorical choices in the Unit 2 videos in my exam prep guide. And second, you want to actually identify every vague element of your sentence and make it more precise and concrete. So let's pretend that we had just watched an ASPCA commercial. You know, those commercials about animal rights. Imagine we've just heard the song in the minor key and we've seen all the mangled dogs and cats and all those things like that. Well, sure, the commercial was meant to make people emotional, but you need to be precise in identifying what in the commercial actually happens and what emotion is meant to be evoked. Instead of using the generic "the author uses pathos to appeal to emotions," you'd want to precisely identify the speaker, who happens to be the ASPCA. You want to precisely identify the choice of the speaker, which would be consistently including pictures of abused animals. And then you'd want to precisely identify the emotion or emotions that these pictures should be evoking in the viewer. In this case, these emotions would be sorrow and pity. So to write about pathos, which is an umbrella term, we want to actually articulate this. The ASPCA consistently includes pictures of abused animals, which moves those viewing the commercial to feel sorrow and pity.
Good work.
Did I say pathos in that sentence? Absolutely not. Did I just write about it really well? You bet. By the way, if you want to see the ASPCA commercial that I'm referring to, it's linked in the description. Now, one last thing here. It's important that you realize why you need to be precise when writing about emotional appeals. Think about the broad spectrum of emotions that exist. You have the positive ones like love and joy, and the negative ones like hatred and fear, and you have everything in between, even more neutral ones like ennui. When you just say pathos or the word emotional, how am I supposed to know which emotion you're actually talking about on such a wide spectrum?
Now, why would I know that?
I can't. So you have to actually write about what you mean. Okay, let's move on to ethos. At the AP reading, I often see sentences that read like this. The speaker uses ethos to build his or her character. Okay, so once again, what this really means is that the speaker appeals to his or her character to build his or her character. Yeah, this sounds so stupid.
Get ready, everybody. He's about to do something stupid.
And because you're not stupid, I don't want you to sound that way. To make this more precise, I need to pinpoint a speaker, articulate the actual choice the speaker makes to build his or her character, and I need to actually articulate what the character is that's being built. Let's think about a toothpaste advertisement. If 9 out of 10 dentists recommend a particular brand, in this case Sensodyne, is Sensodyne building its character as the best fast food chain? Absolutely not. Is Sensodyne building its character as a company that's a trustworthy babysitter? No. The character that Sensodyne is building is based on being the best, most reliable toothpaste on the market. So to precisely write about Ethos here, it would look like this. Sensodyne promotes how highly recommended the brand is amongst dental professionals in order to showcase that they produce the most reliable and effective toothpaste on the market. Yeah, that sentence rocks. It's about the concept of ethos, but I never said the term. Okay, let's move on to logos now. When I see students writing imprecisely about logos, I often see sentences like this. The speaker uses logos in order to show how reasonable his or her argument is. Okay, this is incredibly vague.
I don't get it.
I need to identify the speaker, the choice, and the actual claim of the speaker in order to write about this as precisely as I need to. I'm going to actually shoot back to the toothpaste ad I just referenced in my ethos discussion to model this one. I'm doing this because I need you to realize that these appeals often overlap, and so do their effects. I can actually use the same choice but tie it not only to a character-based effect, but also a logical one. Look at this. Sensodyne promotes how highly recommended the brand is amongst dental professionals in order to highlight how reasonable it is for individuals to choose their toothpaste over all other options. The logical, most reasonable choice for people who care about their teeth is for them to use Sensodyne, assuming that 9 out of 10 dental professionals do actually recommend it like the ad says. Notice here that there's an overlap between the data and how it functions in relation to the umbrella concepts of ethos and logos. So, in order to accurately showcase my understanding of the concepts and the nuance between them, I'll need to bury using those Greek terms, and I'll have to write out what I really mean in precise English. My brilliant friend KAYTIE Storms has some excellent graphic resources about burying ethos, pathos, and logos, and you can find these images and tips linked up for free in the description of this video. I appreciate not only her work, but her willingness to share these resources with you all. I'm not telling you not to know what ethos, pathos, and logos are, but I am telling you that you need to adjust how you think about these concepts and how you write about them. And once you get used to this, you can learn to write incredibly effective full rhetorical analysis essays by checking out what's about to pop up right on your screen.